Hello, welcome to the first session in your Britsafe Academy Health and Safety Training. Lifting, carrying, pushing and pulling are all things we do every day without thinking. But these manual handling activities are one of the greatest causes of industrial injuries within the workplace. Over 35% of workplace injuries are accountable to manual handling through poor posture, excessive repetition, or just plain bad practice. And make no mistake about it, some of those injured do not make a full recovery. They can suffer enduring pain or even be permanently disabled. The Health and Safety at Work Act from 1974 states that all employers have a duty to provide and maintain a safe workplace. And the Manual Handling Regulations of 2002 give a hierarchy of measures that must be followed. And they are: avoid hazardous manual handling operations so far as reasonably practical. Assess hazardous manual handling operations that cannot be avoided. And reduce the risk of injury so far as is reasonably practical. In short, avoid, assess, and reduce the risk. What I'm going to do is to show you the ways that you can do this and how you can work more safely. Manual handling is defined as the transporting or supporting of a load by hand or bodily force. It can be divided into the four key areas of lifting, carrying, pushing and pulling. We're going to take a look at each of these separately to help you understand the hazards, dangers and risks that you could be confronted with. Lifting. There are 5 clear steps in performing a safe lift. Step 1 is to stop and think. And by that we mean assess the risk. For example, is the environment safe? Look around and use your common sense. Ask yourself, am I physically able to do this? A 5'2" woman can't be expected to have the same physical strength of a 6' tall man. Age, height, and levels of fitness should all be taken into account. Nobody should force you to lift anything you don't think you will be able to. Once you have stopped, thought and assessed, then take the appropriate actions. Step 2. Place yourself in a good posture. Keep your feet apart and angle them. Your leading leg should be slightly forward and comfortable. Then soften your knees. They are pivotal to the whole lift. Keep your back naturally straight. Failing to keep your back upright could result in a slipped or prolapsed disc or other serious injuries. Step 3. Take a grip on the load. Make one final assessment of the weight. Keep your shoulders level and your eyes forward, which helps with keeping your natural posture. Keep relaxed and don't tense. Your whole body should be facing in the same direction. And do not twist during the lift and don't overreach. Take a firm grip. Step 4. Start to lift. Keeping your arms in the boundary formed by your legs, start to lift. Using the power from your legs, push up, maintaining a naturally straight back and a controlled posture within a smooth upward movement. Don't jerk, and if you think at the start of the lift that the load is too heavy for you, don't continue. Step 5. Keep the load in your control. The load must be close to your body. Maintain your grip and be aware of your load's characteristics. In other words, carrying liquids or uneven loads can present their own problems. Follow these steps and you should have lifted safely. But now you're on to the next stage of manual handling. You are carrying a load. When you are walking with a load, move your feet smoothly and avoid twisting the trunk of your body. Keep the load close to you and always maintain control. If there is one side of the load heavier than the other, then the heavier side should be closest to your body. When you are carrying a load, be vigilant and aware of your surroundings. Always be alert to any possible danger. Your initial assessment will have identified any hazards on the route that you are taking. But things do change, so always be ready for the unexpected. Also, if you begin to feel tired or strained, then stop and don't overdo it. Now that you have arrived at your destination, you need to put the load down, and this is a reverse of the lifting process. So again, a naturally straight back, head up, eyes forward, and use your legs as a pivot, and taking the weight on the legs, slowly and smoothly lower your body. Release the load and stand up in the same position. The lift and the carrying have now been completed safely and successfully. So to summarise, avoid manual handling if at all practical. Assess the situation and the task, reduce the risk, work within your limitations, control your movements, and don't overdo it. There are a variety of products on the market to help you with this, and using some of them inevitably means that you have to push. The palletizer is used to lift and move pallets up to 1 ton in weight. Now you do need specific training to use a pallet truck, but there are other products designed for smaller and lighter loads. Using the pallet truck as an example, a firm grip should be placed on the handles. Take the weight of the load, lean forward slightly, keeping a natural posture, and use the power in your legs to push off in an even and controlled manner. Once you are moving, maintain a steady speed. And again, you should have assessed the route you are taking for any potential hazards. When you reach your drop-off point, stop smoothly. Again, no jerking. And maintain the load in a safe and stable condition. Carry out your unloading in the same safe way as you would load your trolley or truck. If you have been using a manual handling aid, make sure it is returned to its safe storage area. There is good reason for this. If you leave a truck lying around, it may become a hazard itself. Or even worse, anyone expecting to use an aid from the designated area and finding it's not there, they may be tempted to undertake unsafe handling, and we all know where that could lead. Pulling is the least acceptable way of moving a load, but sometimes it's just unavoidable. So, if you find yourself in a situation where you have to pull a load, make sure you take great care. The dangers in pulling a load are injury to your back through excessive strain or twisting, as your body is being used in an unnatural way. There's a danger of the load coming forward and injuring you. Pulling a load is not as controllable or as safe as pushing. If you're pushing and the load goes out of control, it will go away from you. If you're pulling a load, then it can overrun you. If you find that you have to pull a load, maintain a straight back, grip the trolley or truck firmly, and take the weight of the load. Using the power from your legs, start the movement slowly, smoothly, and in a controlled manner. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, stop and reassess the situation. Maybe you need to lighten the load or get some help. You'll be surprised how often we take pulling for granted in our everyday working lives. What we have to do is recognise the potential for harm and don't take risks. There are a number of environmental factors that will influence your assessment of each particular manual handling task. Space constraints can restrict you from handling in a safe way. You may have to adapt handling techniques and equipment to suit a particular area or situation. Confined spaces are dangerous, and a proper risk assessment must be carried out prior to any attempt to carry loads. Whenever you are moving loads, be aware of surface conditions. Uneven or poorly maintained or wet surfaces could prove disastrous. Taking note of surface conditions will be part of your risk assessment, and if you think there is a hazard, it is your duty to report it. Also, levels of lighting must be adequate for anyone moving or handling loads. Saying it was dark and I tripped over something is a poor excuse for an accident. You should have assessed the situation in the first place and made sure there was good lighting for you to work safely. Moving from level to level when handling a load can be dangerous. Stairs, steps and slopes present very real hazards. Walking up or downstairs with a load should be undertaken with great care and forethought. Moving up and downstairs takes extra effort. And don't think that going downhill is easier. It poses its own problems. Distance of movement is also important when assessing the risks involved. You have to consider how far you have to travel and will you be able to do this in a safe manner. Carrying even a small load over 10 meters can be physically demanding. So don't overdo it, don't underestimate it, and don't get caught out. So remember, all these environmental factors will affect your manual handling assessment. Restricted workspace, surface suitability, lighting levels, moving between different levels, distance of movement, and personal protective equipment. Hopefully, you are more aware of the hazards and risks of manual handling. Remember to work with your own constraints and physical ability, and always use the correct techniques. Remember also that manual handling is your last resort. Use a mechanical aid if you can. And use your common sense to avoid stress and strain, and certainly don't suffer in silence. And if there is one final piece of advice I can offer you, it is to watch your back. That concludes this Britsafe Academy training session.